Barcelona and Dortmund, bro. Were you really surprised with the 4-0?
I know to be honest, I kind of was surprised. I was surprised because like I told you, I thought Borussia Dortmund were going to be a much tougher match for Barcelona. I knew that Barcelona were going to win at home, but I thought I thought they were going to win by 1 or 2 goals only. I didn't see the 4-0, bro, to be honest. I didn't see the 4-0 win. And that can also mean that, Barca, to be honest, in the Champions League, they're doing good.
Well, let's not forget, bro, that and since the beginning of the Champions League, Barcelona have been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
In La Liga, I remember they kind of had a bad moment.
They did, yeah.
But in the Champions League, since the start of the season, they've been playing good. And I think it's like Jairma was telling you, I think the reason why is because Barcelona has a chip over their shoulder, where it's like they know that they have to do good in the Champions League. They want to get back in Europe. But regarding that 4-0, in my opinion, I'm also not going to sit here and tell you that I expected a 4-0.
Yeah, that's surprising. Right?
Yeah, I did expect,
yeah,
of course. I did expect Barcelona, winning by more than 2 goals or 2 goals, I said. And I didn't really see Dortmund scoring more than 1 goal, if at that. But I did mention that Barcelona, in my opinion, were going to be out there and they were going to kind of have fun. And they did. They played a really well game, really good game.
Yeah.
And the reason why, I'll tell you more about it. The reason why I thought I kind of felt like they weren't going to give Barcelona a hard match was because you remember in the group stages?
Yeah.
There was a lot of open gaps that Borussia Dortmund was leaving, bro.
They did, yeah. They left a lot of open gaps.
They left a lot of open gaps. And so I saw that with Benfica, it was a little harder because Benfica, they were pressing, bro. And I feel like in the group stages, Barcelona and kind of struggled against Dortmund. And I think it was mostly because of Barcelona themselves. Not the kind of pressure Borussia Dortmund was giving them,
True, yeah. And like you said, they did leave a lot of open gaps in that game. I do remember it. I do remember, thinking that if Barca were more effective in that group stage, they would have won by more goals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Like I said, I didn't expect the 4-0. For me, that's good. That's great. And for the second leg, I think Borussia Dortmund will win. I think they can win at home because I think Borussia Dortmund at home, they're a little bit more of a tougher match than they are away.
Yeah, that stadium is not easy.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest stadiums to go to in the Champions League. So I think Borussia Dortmund could win this match, the second leg, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to overturn the 4-0. Unless Barcelona have a catastrophic night, bro. Like, they just do mistake after mistake. Like freaking Pedri gets injured or they get 2 red cards, something like that. But yeah, I don't see them overturning that result. But I do see them winning at home. Maybe like maybe by 1. Maybe not 2-goal difference, but I think like a 1-goal difference. Maybe like a 3-2 win.
I actually think Barcelona wins again, bro.
Let's hope. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, hey, the more goals they score too is better because Rafinha is at 12 goals right now in the Champions League. Only Messi has more at Barcelona than Rafinha right now.
Yeah.
So the more goals they score, the better for us. And then like I said, it gives them more confidence for the semifinals. I hope so. Let's just hope.
I think that Barcelona wins, and I think that the reason why, and I go again, I say it, is because I feel like in the Champions League, Barcelona has been playing really well, and it's not because they're playing well. I think that's where they try their hardest. I feel like that's when they know they need to go and showcase.
This season they've been surprising. They've been doing very good in the Champions League. And it's crazy, bro. Because if you would have told me last season ended, right, on Xavi, that Barcelona were going to end up second place in the group stage, in the league table, and they were going to literally be smashing through everybody in the Champions League, I would have been like, I don't think so, dude.
Yeah.
I would have told you, I don't think so.
I agree with you.
But hey, you know what? We take it. Hey, we'll take it. I mean, I don't care. I'll take it. So, Barca have been doing really well. They've been scoring a lot of goals. And hey, this is... that if let's hope, everything goes well. Barca advance. This is the first semifinal since 2019.
I know, since the Liverpool one, right?
Since the Liverpool one, dude. And it's been six years.
And you know what, dude?
6 years, bro.
Yeah,
let that sink in, bro.
Yeah.
6 years of Barcelona, a club like Barcelona, not in the semifinals of the Champions League, bro.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say that it's 80% sure that Barcelona is going to make it to the semifinal, but I can't guarantee it 100% because it's always football.
Of course,
football is very unpredictable.
You can't guarantee 100%.
But I will say that it's a great achievement from Flick, bro. And that's crazy, bro, because we always talk about like keep the treble alive, we're keeping the treble alive, but just imagine, bro, if Flick does win his treble, right?
It's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy talk, of course. Not crazy talk because it's realistic.
It's realistic.
Yeah. but he will join the dudes like coaches like obviously Pep Guardiola and then obviously Luis Enrique,
Yeah.
and the fact that they won it in the first season, you know.
It's like it's like the first season success, you know.
And then
That's
Barcelona's
crazy.
the only club to have won 2 trebles
Yeah.
in the history, right?
Mhm.
They can possibly make it 3.
3, which is it's crazy.
It's a great achievement, bro. And
Yeah,
me and you have kind of touched bases on like Real Madrid. I think that they can go ahead and take great pride, 'cause it is a great pride winning 15 Champions League, having 15 Champions Leagues. But I think Barcelona, we can take great pride too, bro, in the fact that
their treble.
even
it's
two
no easy
trebles,
task,
bro. Even 2 trebles, because
Yeah.
Madrid don't have a treble.
no.
Barcelona's the only in Spain club in Spain that has 1 treble, let alone 2 trebles. So it's a great achievement. But going back to that real quick, the Borussia Dortmund, yeah, I think Barcelona wins, and like I said, right, not only because Barcelona is trying their best in the Champions League, but also let's not forget, bro, that Barcelona hasn't lost in 2025.
Which is kind of crazy because it kind of reminds me of the Luis Enrique run that he had in 2015.
And didn't Ernesto Valverde had it too in La Liga?
No, I think because Flick hasn't lost in this year at all.
Yeah, 2025 they haven't lost.
I think Valverde did lose at one point. I think he went on a significant run. It's just La Liga though.
In La Liga though, right?
Yeah, it's just La Liga, but not overall like in our competitions. Barcelona haven't lost in any competitions
I know
since 2025, and I think Luis Enrique did that in 2015.
Yeah,
I think they only lost like one match. Piqué was talking about it too.
and they won the treble, right?
And then they went on to win the treble. So, hey, the same thing can happen. This is the last month, basically.
Yeah.
The last month, the crucial month, where, this is where, the teams either win or they lose, competition. So, let's, real quick to touch bases, look at Atletico Madrid. They lost, and we did talk about that, remember?
Yeah.
They can possibly lose all competitions in a matter of 1 month. That's what happened to them, bro.
Yeah, they did.
They lost the league in that time frame. They lost the Copa del Rey to Barcelona, and then we got knocked out by Real Madrid in the Champions League. So, this is where the real teams, the ones that are the winners, are gonna show up. And I think I'm glad that Barca's there, bro. We're having that talk about Barca, so that means they're doing good. That means they're doing a good job.
I agree with you, but you know what, bro? I'm gonna say something, and I don't think that both you and I have talked about Inigo Martinez, bro. How good Inigo Martinez has been for Barcelona, bro. Yeah, of course. People can go ahead and talk about. We can go ahead and talk about the Pedris, the Lamine Yamals, Rafinha. Obviously, the great season that he's having. But I want to go ahead and emphasize on Inigo Martinez, bro, because going back to that tackle that he made against Leganés, bro, that's like a goal. For in a sense, that's the kind of defending you need, bro. When it comes to just pure dog defending, bro, Araujo's the guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like you could say, organized and still dog defending, Inigo Martinez has proven a lot, bro.
He gives you both, bro. And then not only that, but I don't know if you noticed, but he's really good at defending corners.
He is, bro.
He's really good at defending corners. He's honestly underrated, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think he's underrated, and you know what? Let's not go too far. He's benching Araujo right now.
Yeah,
Remember we did say like, hey, when Araujo comes back, like, do you really bench Inigo Martinez to give it to Araujo? And we said, nah, not the way Inigo Martinez has been playing.
No.
And not only that, but then he also came back from injury. He came back like nothing.
He came back like nothing.
He still bench Araujo again.
Because you know what, bro? Inigo Martinez. The thing about Inigo Martinez that I really like, bro, is the fact that he comes out very well with the ball. And he comes out very well with the ball, and he can go ahead and, like you said, make great tackles, and he's very organized. And I don't know, bro, maybe I'm tripping, but against Leganés, I saw there was like a little rift. I don't know if it was with Araujo and himself, but he was kind of going off on somebody, Inigo Martinez. If you kind of like saw I know you saw the game, but I don't know if you paid attention to that small detail where he was kind of like screaming at somebody. I'm not too sure who it was.
I think it was at Pedri.
You think it was Pedri?
I think it was at Pedri or De Jong because they lost the ball in the middle. So I think it was
no, it couldn't have been De Jong because this happened in the first half.
Oh, okay. So
maybe he went off on somebody, and to me it kind of looked like he was kind of going off on Araujo.
It's because
I'm not too sure though.
Because we have said that he struggles to keep that line, bro, and that's the reason why Flick is not starting him because he struggles to keep that high line and against, for example, let's say in the semifinals, let's say Barca advance, right? Against Inter, you're gonna have to be organized. You're gonna have to keep the line because they're gonna counterattack you.
With Inter Milan, bro, I will say that Inter Milan, and me and you have talked about that a lot, is that Inter Milan, people may not go ahead and say, they're put them there, But with Inter Milan, it kind of reminds me of Arsenal, where it's like
Yeah.
those underdog teams, and even PSG. Because me and you, we didn't even put PSG up there, to be honest.
That's true.
I would admit that I never thought PSG would be here in this stage.
Me too.
I do believe them going through. Of course, they beat Aston Villa 3-1. They're gonna go through, but we'll talk more about that in a bit because I do want to go ahead and touch bases about PSG potentially facing either Arsenal or Madrid.
Yeah.
But
that's gonna be the
going
next.
back to like the Inigo Martinez, bro, yeah, this dude is, he's good, bro, and I don't see Araujo easily coming back to that position. And just to kind of go more into detail with Inigo Martinez, bro, me and you have referenced a lot of times, right, that Inigo Martinez reminds us a lot of. I'm sorry, Araujo reminds us a lot of Puyol.
Yeah.
And so Piqué, he will kind of, compensate for Puyol's, sloppiness. But in terms of dog defending, Puyol was a monster, and that's what reminds me of Araujo because Araujo,
defending.
just defending, and I'm talking about like for example, right? You remember against Atletico de Madrid, where Araujo, we needed like a player just to freaking just defend, and
He came in.
and he was doing just that. And sometimes you need that. You get me? That's why it's great to have those two kind of defenders.
Spot depth. You have defensive depth, and that's what that gives you. But yeah, I mean,
So I want to say I'm sorry, Inigo Martinez, bro. He's been outstanding.
To end it, yeah, definitely. And like I said, let's not go too far. The proof is that he's been benching Araujo. But so Borussia Dortmund, and Barcelona. So we see Barcelona advancing.
Yeah. To finish it up there, I do see Barcelona advancing. Bro.
I see them advancing. Now, but what about let's go to Arsenal, Real Madrid, bro?
Wow.
Because it's
Wait, how did Messi go when he signed that PSG contract?
Because it's kind of crazy because I didn't think Arsenal were gonna win 3-0. To be honest.
Either.
I didn't think so. I thought after the Gabriel got injured, I thought that they were gonna struggle more defensively.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit though, because before Gabriel got injured, right? Both you and I said that Arsenal, in terms of how we categorize the teams, we put them in order. We said that Arsenal was above Real Madrid.
Yeah, we did.
All right, we did categorize. We said, just to kind of go back, we said Barcelona first, Liverpool second, PSG.
No, I think we said Liverpool first.
No, I said Barcelona first.
Oh, you said Barcelona.
I said Barcelona. You said Barcelona. You said I agree because we talked about how well Barcelona were doing and how they looked. So we categorized Barcelona first, Liverpool second, and then I said, people might say it's crazy, but we're going to throw Arsenal third. And then we said fourth place could be between Real Madrid, City, Bayern, because they're always there, So yes, but obviously, it's football, players get injured. Saka had, came back. He wasn't the same, but he played pretty good. Gabriel got injured, right? But yes, I also didn't expect a 3-0, but I wasn't surprised of how bad Real Madrid looked against Arsenal. And because you made a great point and you said that all it takes to beat Real Madrid is to have a team organized. And Arteta, he did just that.
Yeah, I remember I said all it takes is just a team to be pretty organized and solid in defense and have decent midfield. That's what I said. And that's all you need to cause danger to Real Madrid. And I mean, it kind of proved it with Arsenal, bro, because Arsenal, in my opinion, they dominated Real Madrid. Even though, people can say, oh, yeah, but, like, how many times will Wright score 2 free kicks in one match? That's true, but overall, Arsenal were better than Real Madrid. Way better than Real Madrid. So, I think, I don't think the 3-0 lead is done. I don't think that's it for Real Madrid either, bro, because I think, I think Real Madrid like to play like that. At home.
Under pressure?
Yeah, at home, against the ropes. And they like to go all out. They like to leave it all out. So it's kind of like that's where they performed best for some reason. We saw it against, remember that when they came back against PSG, Manchester City, and even against, I think, Juventus, bro. I think at one time, Juventus were beating them 3-0 at home. And then Real Madrid came back. So, that's what I'm saying. Can they go ahead and come back? I think they could. Let's put a scenario, right? Let's say Real Madrid score 1 goal in the first 10 minutes. Okay, let's say they score 2 goals in the first half, and Arsenal for some reason can't score. All of a sudden, it's a whole different game. Dude.
Yeah,
it's a whole different game. So, I think a 4-0 would have killed Real Madrid, but I think a 3-0 leaves them alive. So, I think I still think that Arsenal are gonna play better than Real Madrid because Real Madrid right now they're playing awful. But I do think Real Madrid are gonna have chances as well because Arsenal do leave themselves kind of open sometimes, and they do leave. They do make mistakes in the back. Even in the first half, at home at the Emirates. Remember, I texted you and I was like, damn. I was like, I actually didn't see Arsenal getting past Real Madrid even at the Emirates, bro. Because in the first half, I don't know if you saw it, but
They were shaky in defense.
they were shaky, bro. Like they were nervous or something. They kept making some pretty silly mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think, but I think that's how Arsenal are because they like to expose themselves. So I think they're gonna make mistakes, but I think it's all up to how effective Real Madrid's attack is and how if they score the goals or not. But I think once Arsenal start getting settled in the game, I think Arsenal are gonna outplay them in the middle for sure, and I think they're gonna outplay them for sure. They're gonna be better than them, even away from home.
So pretty much what you mean is like outplaying them,
Yeah.
and being better than home than they were away, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are gonna outplay Real Madrid. I think they're gonna be better than Real Madrid, and I still see Arsenal going through, to be honest, because I think Arsenal are not gonna change the way they play. I think the same way they play at the Emirates, they're gonna go and play at the Bernabeu. But like I said, let's just, hopefully Arsenal don't make too many mistakes in the first half. Where let's say they get scored 2 goals in the first half and they haven't scored any, because like I said, that's a whole different game right there. So
You know what? I agree with you, bro, because what's the worst freaking lead to have in a football game, bro? It's always the 2-0.
it's always a 2-0. So
like you said, all Real Madrid needs to do, bro, is just score one goal in the first 10 minutes. If they do that, it's gonna be tough for Arsenal. But I do trust Arteta, bro, because I also feel just like Barcelona. I feel that Arteta has something to prove to the Arsenal fans. That kind of makes me a little confident. I will say, right, I do see Arsenal also going through. But I will say that it's not going to be easy at all.
no.
But I will say that I wouldn't be surprised also if Real Madrid come back. And I will also say
It's crazy to say, bro, but I wouldn't be surprised either.
I will say that Arsenal are in a very good position.
They are, yeah.
But that being said, I want Arsenal to go through, right? I at first, we always talked about wanting a Clásico. I still do, but I will freaking hate it, bro, because a football game is a football game. Imagine I would freaking be mad if Real Madrid and Barcelona in the Champions League final. Could happen, it's football, right? I'm not saying in terms of who's going to be better or whatever, no. But as a football fan too, bro, I will be very curious to see a PSG versus Arsenal. More than I would a PSG versus Real Madrid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a very good game. But Arsenal beat them already 2-0 at home
PSG?
in the group stage.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's funny, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they beat them, bro, 2-0, which is kind of crazy to think.
Well, then, you know what? Can you imagine this, bro? Let's just imagine this scenario, right? Real Madrid advances. Let's just say, bro. It sounds funny, bro,
I'm gonna be
because
smashing my TV, bro, if I see that happening.
Yeah,
because you know what? I've been traumatized already, bro. I remember when I was watching the PSG game, bro, when I was watching the Manchester City game, the Bayern Munich game, bro. Where Real Madrid were doing the little combines, bro, and I was pissed.
yeah.
I was like, man, I can't believe these
teams, bro.
Like, they just choke right there. So that's why I'm telling you, I'm hoping that Arsenal don't choke. I'm hoping they don't choke. I'm hoping the players step up, that they remain calm. They play the way they've been playing, all season long. They don't change anything. They don't try to defend the result.
Yeah, they can't go
Just
in there.
hold there and
defending,
play
bro.
your
They have to
game.
play the game.
Play your game. But you know what? Like you said, I think I do trust Arteta as well, bro, because Arteta is one of those coaches that's trying to instill in Arsenal to play the same way regardless of where they play.
Yeah, they have to.
Regardless of the stadium. Because you know what? Against Liverpool, they
Hey,
play the same way. Against City, at the Etihad,
it must be a Barcelona thing, huh?
it's a Barcelona
Like
thing,
Cantera, huh, bro? Let's not forget it, bro. Arteta, he came from La Masia and all that, and with Pep Guardiola, Xavi, and all those, the legends, even Luis Enrique, for example.
Yeah.
He didn't come from La Masia, but he also has played at Barcelona.
He has the Barca DNA, and it's the same thing he's doing with PSG. It's like, you know what? For example, let's not go too far. PSG against Liverpool at Anfield.
Yeah.
They play the same way. So Luis Enrique is trying to instill that in PSG too. It's like, hey, play the same way regardless of who you have in front, regardless of what stadium you're going to. Just keep playing the same way. Keep the game plan. Don't change it. And I think that's when teams run into trouble at the Bernabeu, when they try to change their method, they try to change their game plan, or they try to defend a result. If you do that, bro, you're not gonna get out of there alive.
Let's look at 2 examples, right, bro? Real Sociedad
Mm-hmm.
in the Copa del Rey. This is just we're just strictly talking about the Copa del Rey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real Sociedad, and then it's like a much smaller club of that than Atletico de Madrid, right? Look at the way Atletico de Madrid played against Real Madrid, right? In the second leg, right? They scored the goal in the first 13, 12 seconds, bro. At home, they tied up the leg. They had everything towards them, and towards their favor,
I'm going for them, yeah.
And then what do? They killed their own momentum by
They
just
did.
sitting back, defending. Hey, let's see what happens. We talked about that, about how, Atletico de Madrid fans were upset about the penalty of Julian Alvarez. You know what? Guess what? Even if that penalty would have counted, Atletico Madrid still goes and misses the next penalty.
They missed the following one, so you can't feel sorry.
You can, bro. And then you know what? We talked about that too, in a sense where it's like, this is what Simeone always does. He takes a lead and then he kind of just sits back and kind of wants to go to extra time, and you can't do that. You have to kill them. Real Sociedad, and the reason why I pointed Real Sociedad and Atletico de Madrid, I made the two references because Real Sociedad played a better game, more with, guts than Atletico de Madrid did.
Yes.
So, if you go back, right, and you're a Real Sociedad player, you could be like, man, you know what, lo teníamos, we had them, Atletico de Madrid, they're going to be upset, but at themselves.
They leave the Champions League with a bitter taste in their mouth.
As they should.
And Real Sociedad, they left the Copa del Rey semifinal with their heads held high.
Knowing that they did everything they did.
They knew that they put everything they could on the pitch. They did the best. They did everything they could. And for football's football, right? It can go one way or the other. That doesn't mean just because you're playing the best, it doesn't mean that you're gonna go through. It doesn't mean you're going to advance. So Real Sociedad, they can go ahead and leave the Bernabeu with their heads held high.
Yeah.
But Atletico Madrid on the other hand, they left the Champions League, bro, with a bitter, taste in their mouth because they knew they could do more.
Yeah,
and
that's,
they didn't.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, bro. Because I feel that the players, like you saw Julian Alvarez, bro, when he was playing, dude was just running, bro, just wanting to freaking score, bro.
He was the only one that was trying to score. He was the only one trying to kill Real Madrid, and the rest were just like, hey, let's see what happens. But anyways, so do you still see Arsenal going through?
I see Arsenal going through, but I wouldn't be surprised if Real Madrid come back. But I think that this is what I'm going to say. I see Arsenal going through because it depends on themselves. But if they don't allow it to depend on themselves, what I mean? I'm trying to say, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And how do they do that? Is by switching up their game plan. Meaning they're going to go to the Bernabeu and they're going to defend. But if they go in there playing their own game, going with the mentality of like, you know what, we have something to prove. We have a 3-0 lead. Not get shaky. Arsenal goes through. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so I still have Arsenal going through as well. But like I said, I would not be surprised. Like if somebody were to tell me, hey, guess what? Let's just say we didn't watch the game. Hey, guess what? Real Madrid went through. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised because it's happened before, many times to other teams. It happened to City. Why can't it happen to Arsenal? Yeah. So, I wouldn't be surprised, but I do see Arsenal going through just because I believe that Arteta's not going to change the way Arsenal are going to play at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, that's why I like Arteta.
So that's the reason why I see Arsenal going through.
I like Arteta as a coach, and you remember we used to always say, for the longest, we said, Arsenal has a good team, and they have the coach now. All they need is patience, right? Because we always talked about the biggest mistakes of, for example, that Chelsea and Man United do, where it's like, dude, they get coaches and they fire them without giving them a shot.
Projects.
With Arsenal, Arteta has been able to do that. All he really needs to do is win games like this.
Yeah.
Because if he collapses, that's going to look bad.
It is, yeah. It's going to be a setback if they get eliminated by Real Madrid after having a 3-0 lead.
And I would also add for Arsenal, bro, to Arsenal is that whoever faces Arsenal, if they do go next to the next stage, which in this case it may be PSG, they need to worry about Arsenal, bro.
Yeah. And it's crazy, bro, because when I was watching the ESPN the pundits.
Are you talking about before the game of the Arsenal?
Yeah, before the
I
Real
know what
Madrid
you're talking
game.
about, dude.
It's like crazy, bro, because everybody was just counting Arsenal off. They
Dude,
were saying,
I know, bro.
we see Real Madrid winning. Even the comments, like I will go to the comments and people were like, "Oh, Real Madrid's winning easily."
Look at the comments that we got in the video right here,
Yeah,
bro.
and it's like, are you serious? Like, do you guys not see the games? Like, how can people go ahead and count Arsenal off when, in my opinion, Arsenal, they have a game plan. They know
They
what
do,
they're
yeah.
playing for. And not only that, but this season, they put 5 against Manchester City.
Right. And and they also, if I'm not mistaken, they beat Man United 3-0.
Yeah, and then, they beat PSG 2-0, the group stage of the Champions League. So they're not a team that is just going to be, losing left and right, or, they're here by surprise. No.
And that's and to add to that point, bro, I agree with you, because I also saw the ESPN pundits, and they were just saying like, oh, Arsenal has no chance. And I was thinking that, I was like, dude, like, have you guys actually seen Real Madrid play this season?
Oh, yeah.
And have you guys actually seen Arsenal play this season?
Oh, yes, because, you just can't go, you can't bet against Real Madrid. Like, okay.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter, dude, because when you see the way Arsenal have been playing under Arteta, bro, okay, and I'm going to tell you, when I started noticing Arsenal being good under Arteta? I think both you and I know.
Let me guess. The preseason.
When
Barca against Arsenal.
Yes, bro.
That's the one, bro.
That's the one. I was like, hey, you know what? Freaking Arsenal, bro. They play good at
I was watching that game, bro, and I was like, man, Barca's struggling out here. And I was like, man, Arsenal are freaking, they're dominating them.
Yeah, bro.
And even Xavi was pissed, bro.
Because he said they played it.
Pissed.
Me and you were pissed. Because Xavi came out and he said, you know what, Arsenal played this game like it was a final. So the frick what we said. Like, what the hell? That's what you're supposed to be playing.
Yeah, and I was like, I was kind of surprised, bro, to be honest.
No, yeah.
I think Xavi got surprised too, bro. Xavi was like, oh, like, damn, like, I didn't think that they were...
The kind of momentum of the game that they
brought. I didn't think that they actually, like, were playing for something. Like, Arsenal were playing for something. They've been playing for something. Can they lose? Yeah, they can lose.
Yeah, of course.
But they play for something. They know what they're playing for. They have their game plan. So yeah, that's the game, Yeah,
that was the game that both you and I, we sat there, and this was a preseason, under Xavi, and then we saw like, damn, Arsenal's playing pretty good on Arteta. And then we started seeing the kind of players that Arsenal was bringing under Arteta, right?
Yeah.
And how he was kind of developing them. Yeah. And let's not forget about Gabriel and Saliba, Saliba, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
he was playing pretty good, So when we were like, hey, you know what? Arsenal is doing really good. So I wanted to go ahead and I said, a lot of people say, you know what, dude? Arsenal, when have they ever been good? Well, you know what? They gave City a run for their money. Yeah, of course, they choked, they bottled the league, whatever happens. But you know what? And this season, unfortunately, they haven't been playing good. But you know what? You can tell that Arteta has a project.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, right?
It's time.
Yeah, let's not forget that. Me and you have also said many times that the worst thing that could have happened to Xavi is winning the league in his first season, right? Because the expectations, bro, they just went high, but and it kind of like, you could say, made fans forget that Barcelona were still in a rebuilding stage. With Arsenal, I've always said, with Arsenal, if they give it at the time, a little bit more time, because let's not forget, bro, it took Pep Guardiola, 7 seasons to go ahead and win the Champions League for City?
I think like 10, bro, no?
Something like that, right?
Oh, wait, no.
I think it was like 7 or 8, if I'm
like
not
7 years. He won the Champions League 2 seasons ago, right?
Yeah.
So that season, Real Madrid won.
And he's been there for now 10 seasons, right?
Yeah, so he got there in 2017?
Yeah. Point is, bro,
it took him like 7 years.
It took him a while. We always say that. You got to give certain teams, coaches time, bro. It's not easy.
And that's what we wanted for Xavi.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted for Xavi. Look, and so going back to it real quick, it's funny, right? Because I agree with you that a lot of the pundits were over here saying like, you know what, like Real Madrid over Arsenal, No, dude, like, I remember, like, and I keep saying this, not just to kind of toot our own horns, but you know what, bro, like, I've been seeing some of the Arsenal games, bro, and I can see the intensity that they bring. They brought it to Man United, they brought it to City, and you saw the game against PSG in the Champions League. They bring this sort of intensity where they can do it. Now, can they get eliminated? Yeah, they can. But point is, they're going comfortable into this game, so it could happen. That's it.
Yeah, it could happen. And like I said, I don't think Arsenal are going to change their game plan. I don't think Arteta is. He's going to go and play the same way that he did at home. So I see Arsenal going through. But like I said, there's that but,
Yeah.
Weird things happening in that stadium, bro. Like red cards,
VAR.
offside goals.
But now we have Bayern, so we'll see what happens.
So yeah, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But then the other ties that we have, for example, Inter and Bayern Munich, I think that one we can all agree, bro. I think we think Inter is going through.
I will say that I thought Bayern was
They're gonna be a tougher match.
I thought Bayern was gonna be good, but you know what? Let's also not forget. I didn't watch the game, but I'm going based on the reports. They were saying that Bayern played really good, and
They did.
Inter got pretty lucky.
They did. Kane missed
It's a sitter, huh?
Kane missed a sitter, bro.
Missed
I
a
mean, you know what, dude? To be honest, you can't be missing that. That's the Kane curse, bro. Honestly, as a number 9, bro, that's what you expect your number 9. The goals for your number 9 to score, and he missed that one. I saw the highlights. They did play better than Inter. Inter were, you know how Inter play, right? They were absorbing a lot of pressure and counterattacking them. But, you know, and these stages of the Champions League, bro, it doesn't matter who plays good.
I agree.
It doesn't matter who plays better. What matters is who scores the goals.
That's what we always talk about. Like, for example, even though we'll bring him back up, or Ferran Torres, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about how when Ferran Torres comes into Barcelona and starts in that number 9 role, it's not the fact that we're hating on him, but it's just we're being realistic, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the Champions Leagues, right? You're not gonna have no 5-6 opportunities where you can go ahead and afford to miss 4-3 opportunities.
Yeah.
You need to be very clinical, and that's the reason why. There's a saying in football, right? If you don't make them, they're going to make them.
Yeah, bro. And these
Lautaro Martinez, he made that
good
nice
goal.
that nice goal.
Yeah.
Bro.
So you know, it matters who. What matters is who scores the goals. All right, that's what matters. Which team is more clinical. Okay. For example, we can go back to even our, you know, when we were watching Pep Guardiola in the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
We can watch the Inter Milan versus Barcelona, right? Which team was more clinical? Inter were more clinical.
Yeah.
Barca didn't take their chances.
Even though they dominated the game,
Even though they dominated the game.
they just didn't take the chance.
Another one was Chelsea, bro, under Pep Guardiola too.
Yeah.
Where Barca were way better than Chelsea were. But hey, Chelsea scored the goals.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2 chances. They scored 2 at the Camp Nou.
And then we can also reference the Chelsea game where Iniesta scored the last minute banger. Chelsea were more clinical.
They were.
But Barcelona took the chances.
But Barcelona took the chance, but Iniesta scored that banger. So, you know, things like that can happen, but you got to be clinical, bro. I think Kane, that goal that he missed, bro, is going to come back and bite them in the butt.
Kind of reminds you of the Dembele goal that he missed against Liverpool.
Yeah. There you go, bro. That's the only memory that we have of Dembele, the traitor. That's the only memory we have of him when he missed that sitter. You know, what he could have made it 4-0 against Liverpool. And I do think that a 4-0, Barca would have advanced, bro.
I agree with you, bro.
Because I think the 4-0 that Liverpool scored at Anfield, I think it would have taken them to extra time because it's tied up. At that time, the away goals did matter. But, you know, let's say Barcelona scoring goals, right, at Anfield, it would have went to extra time. And I think at extra time, I think Barca would have gone through.
And besides that, but I also think that a team, no matter what, right, it affects them going into a game 4-0 down. 3-0 is more believable in my opinion because 3-0.
Yeah, that's why, you know, we talked about the Real Madrid Arsenal right now. That's the reason why I'm telling you that they're not there. Real Madrid are not there, bro, because they know it's doable. They know, a team knows that, you know, that's why Liverpool against Barca at Anfield, they went for it because they knew it was doable. They scored 1 or 2 goals in the first half. Hey, it's a whole different game, dude.
Yeah.
It's a whole different game. The same thing can happen to Arsenal, so let's hope not, but it can happen. So
just to recap real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona.
Yeah, I'll go for Barca. Barca going through.
Real Madrid.
But Dortmund winning. I think Dortmund are gonna win this game.
You say Dortmund wins?
The second leg, yeah.
I say Barcelona wins the second leg.
That's all,
Real Madrid versus Arsenal.
I think I'm gonna say Arsenal just because I think Arteta is not gonna change his game plan, and I think Arsenal are gonna go for the game. So I say Arsenal.
I say Arsenal as well.
Mm-hmm. But let's say, okay, we're gonna be surprised if one of those moments that happen, those weird moments at the stadium at the Bernabeu happen again, and Real Madrid go through. That's the but.
All right. So then, and then we have Inter Milan versus Bayern.
Yeah, I don't see Bayern. Because Bayern, you know, I saw the highlights against Dortmund, bro. Bayern leave defensively, bro. They leave a lot of open gaps, and they leave themselves open a lot. So I think Inter are gonna take their chances at the San Siro, and I think Inter are going through.
So Inter goes through.
Yeah.
PSG, Aston Villa, unfortunately, we kind of
unfortunately, PSG. I think PSG are gonna go through unless PSG have like a very bad night and Aston Villa have a very motivating night. I don't see it happening, bro. So I think PSG are going through.
So then, semifinals, you have Barcelona versus Inter Milan.
Yes, the one that I didn't want.
That's the one we're nervous about.
I remember we said it, bro. Potentially we can see Inter against Barcelona. The one that I didn't want, but I think that's a semifinal that's gonna happen. But I'll tell you this much though, real quick. Quick note: if Barca do get past Inter, I think Barca are taking the Champions League
Me too.
because that would be the team.
That's
that
the
I
black
think-
sheep for Barcelona right now.
Yes, that's a team. They already got rid of one of their nails along the way in the Champions League, which is Bayern in the group stage.
Yeah.
They got that thing off their shoulder already. Okay, we got that over because Bayern were a nightmare for Barca.
Yeah, I know. Eric Garcia said it too. He got an interview. He said that game there was a lot of pressure because they knew that they had to kind of make a stamp that fact that they can go ahead and
They had to make a
compete
statement. Yeah.
against a top European club like Bayern.
So and Inter is another one. So I think if Barca get past Inter, I think they're taking the Champions League.
Okay, so then you have semifinals. Just to kind of go back, then you have Barcelona, Inter Milan, and then on the other side, we can agree that we have Arsenal, PSG.
Yes, Arsenal and Real Madrid, I think it's still 50-50.
Yeah.
If that sounds crazy, I think it's still 50-50, but I would say Arsenal, so I think Arsenal PSG. Yeah, second leg.
So let's see what
That means
happens.
semifinals.
So let's see what happens, and then we can go ahead and break down the semifinals.
Treble, bro.